Namaskar, good afternoon to all my friends. I welcome our keynote speaker today, Dr. Sunita Gandhi. I welcome all the other friends. A very warm welcome to all of you, the 9th virtual discourse. This discourse will be very interesting. It is on a very interesting subject of education. We are delighted to see all of you here, dear friends. India is celebrating today the 75th anniversary of its Independence Day. I congratulate all my Indian friends. We have to promise today that we have to do everything possible to build this nation, to be positive, to respect its diversity, and to celebrate what we have in our culture and contribute to the well-being of the people. Let us promise to, on this auspicious day, to keep our surroundings clean, to shun the single use of plastic, to minimize the carbon footprint, to promote social harmony. There are so many things we can do to contribute to the well-being of this nation. We do these initiatives as our modest initiative for the betterment of the society, and I'm very happy that we are receiving support from all strata of society, and friends have been helping us. Before we proceed further, I would like to start this program with a few prayers. The first prayer will be played electronically. I will request Adib to play, and then later on, Mr. Ganesh Shenoy will be chanting another prayer for us. And then we'll proceed with the program. So can I request Adib, please play the prayer. And after that, please unmute Mr. Ganesh Shenoy so that he will be able to recite his prayer. Thank you very much.
आत्मा के पुत्र, हे आत्मा के पुत्र, मेरा प्रथम परामर्श है एक शुद्ध दयालु एवं प्रकाशमय हृदय धारण कर, ताकि पुरातन अमिट एवं अनंत श्रेष्ठता का साम्राज्य तेरा हो, साम्राज्य तेरा हो। ही है, एक शुद्ध दयालु एवं प्रकाशमय, हृदय धारण कर, ताकि पुरातन अमिट एवं अनंत श्रेष्ठता का साम्राज्य तेरा हो, साम्राज्य तेरा हो। एक शुद्ध दयालु एवं प्रकाशमय, हृदय धारण कर, हृदय धारण कर, हृदय धारण कर।
हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, यह वर दे के एकता की ज्योति सारी पृथ्वी पर छा जाए, और साम्राज्य प्रभु का है, साम्राज्य प्रभु का है। यह मोहर इसके सभी समुदायों एवं राष्ट्रों के ललाट पर अंकित हो जाए। यह मोहर इसके सभी समुदायों एवं राष्ट्रों के ललाट पर अंकित हो जाए। हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर, हे परमेश्वर।
Thank you very much, Mr. Ganesh Shenoy, for your beautiful chant. Thank you so much. Friends, we are very grateful for the friends who have joined us today. I once again welcome Dr. Sunita Gandhi, our keynote speaker today, and all the other friends. We have been receiving several mails from the participants, and especially from those who have missed the programs, to send them the recordings. And it's not possible to share the recordings individually. So we decided to upload all the videos on the YouTube so that friends can visit and see the recordings themselves and share with their friends and families and acquaintances. I request all of you, please visit and subscribe the channel, and please publicize this modest initiative of ours in order to build a better society that we are aiming for. Thank you very much, friends. those who are joining us today for the first time, I request you to leave your contacts in the chat box for the communication with you. In the future, we can invite you to the programs. You can share your views, your feedbacks. So you can leave your numbers and your emails. That will be wonderful. Friends, before I introduce our keynote speaker today, I would like to, as usual, I will take a couple of minutes to introduce the program, the subject, and then introduce the speaker today, and then she will address us. As you know, friends, these programs are organized by the members of the Baha'i community, and basic tenets of the Baha'i community is oneness of God, oneness of religions, and oneness of humanity. And the Baha'i community exists all over the world, and the main crux of their activity focuses on education. They work in the area of moral education of children, for the empowerment of junior youths, and they run the several study sessions for the adults in order to build positive consciousness within the people and build a unifying vision between the purpose of man and the purpose of the society. There has to be alignment. We increasingly observe in the society that ignorance and lack of understanding has been the prime factors that contributes to the social ills. And our initiative has been only to enrich the understanding of the people, to guide the people to the correct perspective of life on the concepts of human existence. What brings prejudices to the human minds, how we can eliminate those prejudices. So most of the subjects that we take up in our discourses, they are related to these subjects and ideas. And we don't believe in monologues. We don't believe in only lecture sessions. So these programs are basically participatory. After the keynote address, the floor will be open. You can share your comments. You can share your views. And we are also thinking of extending one more step, of having discussions in the smaller groups, and we will also initiate conversations at the workplaces, other forums, platforms. So, in case you are willing to extend a supporting hand to us to carry forward this conversation at your workplace, with your colleagues, with your contemporaries, with your acquaintances, we are willing to hold such discussions with these people. Today, what is the ready? So, friends, I request all of you to participate with the discussions after the keynote speaker's address, to participate positively and share your views. Today's subject is on education beyond the confines of the classrooms, how the education can be in service to the community. We know that education drives progress in individual's life and in the life of the society. But then the economic progress that has come about through this educational system, it has caused tremendous amount of human misery. The inequalities in income has also contributed a lot of issues in the society, and we can see that. The contemporary understanding that academic education can resolve the problems of society hasn't been very helpful, because we see that increasing instances of the white-collar crimes, the corporate frauds, the professional misconduct, the medical negligence. You can see the human-induced irreparable damage to the environment. We can go on and on and on, and we can see that all these crimes are being perpetrated in the name of freedom and human rights. They want to have all the privileges in the society and have all the resources, and they are committed by the highly qualified and educated people. So it is clear that human learning has not been able to control all these wrongdoings in the society. So what has gone wrong with the education? Now the social scientists, they have been increasingly questioned whether the education has shifted its goalpost from the basic goal of human development to it has taken the center stage, to accumulate wealth and to be the cause of self-centeredness, greed, how education can be used in the service of the community, that we are going to discuss today. And Dr. Sunita Gandhi, who can be a better person to share her views, share her insights and thoughts in this regard than Dr. Sunita Gandhi, who is an eminent educationist. Believe me, dear friends, it is very difficult to introduce Dr. Sunita Gandhi, who has achieved so much in her life. So therefore, I will not be able to do justice to her long curriculum vitae, but I'll be sharing only in a nutshell what she has done in her life. By profession, by education, she is a physicist. She got a PhD from Cambridge University. She's the vice chair of Indian Literacy Board. She's the founder of Council for Global Education. She is the director of the City Montessori School, which is a Limca Book of World Records for imparting education to the highest number of students in a single enterprise, under a single umbrella body. So Dr. Sunita Gandhi is a brilliant educator. She has spent most of her life in education, and she has traveled to almost 50 countries of the world. She has written scores of articles and research papers. She's a prominent member of the Indian Baha'i community. So we are very grateful to her to find time to share her thoughts and insights with us today, dear friends. So I'll be requesting her to address us and share her thoughts and insights in this regard. Adip, could you please unmute Dr. Gandhi, please?
Namaskar, sir. I'm unmuted for sure. Namaskar to everyone. And Dr. Jitin Mishra ji, thank you for inviting me to this fireside discussion. And to all the dear friends who are gathered here today, it's a privilege and an honor to be amongst you and to be talking about issues of relevance in education and service. A very happy 75th India's Independence Day to all of you. And let's begin by focusing our thoughts on education. I think we can all agree that the education of each child needs to be compulsory, that every child should be in school. And this is still a far cry from our country at this point in time. I was just reading an article today how education is in a state of emergency because children have forgotten what they learned 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. And we need to really take this matter very seriously. So first and foremost, education needs to be compulsory, should be made available to every single child in India and the world at large. In addition, as the Baha'i writings say, and I'll be quoting directly from the Baha'i writings in my speech, each child must be taught a profession, art, or trade so that every member of the community will be able to earn his or her own livelihood. So it is one of the imperatives that they be able to earn their livelihood by getting a profession, and that comes from training and education. Education has great importance. With training, a crooked branch can grow straight, and a barren tree of the desert can be domesticated. It can be grafted and made to bear fruit. Children are even as a branch that is fresh and green. They will grow up in whatever way you train them. Take the utmost care to give them high ideals and goals so that once they come of age, they will cast their beams like brilliant candles to the world. Whatever children learn in the early stages, there's a huge emphasis on learning in early stages of childhood. What they learn in those ages will leave its traces upon their whole life. It'll become a part of their nature. Greatest importance, therefore, should be given to teaching the youngest ages. So every child should be in school. Yet there is a provision in the Baha'i writings that the training should be at home up until the age of 5. There's also due emphasis on education of girls because as they become the first educators of children, the education of girls takes precedence over that of boys. Education is a means for women to achieve full equality with men. For the day will come when these girls will become mothers. Mothers are the first educators of children who establish virtues in the child's inner nature. So both parents, of course, should train their children while still in their tender age it would seem preferable that they should receive their first training at home at the hand of their mother rather than to be sent to a school. From the age of 5, their formal education can begin. Though there are parents who can't afford to have their children at home because they must both work, but it's preferable if they are learning at home till about the age of 5. What I have been doing over these years is looking at the Baha'i writings and figuring out a way how to put them into a framework which is easily understood by all of us, and that is able to guide our efforts into the future. So I've come up with what we refer to as the 4 building blocks of education. And these are the 4 most important goals of education in the 21st century. The very first building block is universal values. This is the spirit to be who we are, the virtues, the values, the person that we are. And the universal values go above most important of the 4 building blocks, and they are the most valuable thing that our academic system should address. Academic studies must be training centers in behavior and conduct, and they must favor character and conduct above sciences and arts. Now, that's really an important principle, that we are so busy teaching them maths and science and English that we forget that the essential nature of education is about values and virtues and behavior and conduct. And we are not able to give that, then we are not able to fulfill the true purpose of education. So academic training is not enough. It must combine with training in character traits. Training in morals and good conduct is far more important than book learning. A child that is cleanly, agreeable, of good character, well-behaved, even though he be ignorant, is preferable to a child that is rude, unwashed, ill-natured, and yet becoming deeply versed in all the sciences and arts. So the balance has been set very clearly that it is preferable. Of course, it's also good that they have both. But, and there the writings say, the child who conducts himself well, even though he be ignorant, is of benefit to others, while an ill-natured, ill-behaved child is corrupted and harmful to others, even though he be learned. If, however, the child can be trained to be both learned and good, the result is light upon light. Schools should be places of utmost discipline and order. The children must be carefully trained to be most courteous and well-behaved, because the root cause of all wrongdoing is ignorance. And we must therefore hold fast to the tools of perception and knowledge. Good character must be taught first. Light must be spread afar, so that in the school of humanity, all may acquire the heavenly characteristics of the spirit. So these are the universal values that are the spirit of every child, every human being, that we need to address first and foremost in education, and the first building block, as we refer to it. The second building block is global understanding, that we are part of one human family, and developing that heart to love. It's not just about coexistence and cooperation and working with each other and saying, well, I don't like you, but then we're sitting next to each other, so let's just work with each other. It's not about coexistence. It's about being part of one human family, recognizing we are part of one small handful of dust, and that whole humanity is one, combined by one thread, and that is the thread of humanity. So that heart to love, that understanding that we are part of a human family, must be a part of every child's education. We can hold the one world phone, and yet we don't recognize that the other person across the continent is a brother of mine. The universality of education, which is essential to the unity of mankind, that one and all may be equally educated, whether girls or boys, and receive the same education, that every child across the world, it's envisioned, should receive the same education. And this is because when education is universalized in all schools, perfect communication between the members of the human race will be established. And this is written in the Baha'i writings. When all receive the same kind of education, the foundation of war and contention will be utterly destroyed. I think this is really profound. that same kind of education. What kind of education is defined very clearly in terms of values and virtues taking precedence over arts and sciences, but arts and sciences also equally important in terms of disciplines that they need to learn in a school first and after the first values and virtues. So they say that education of the children in their infancy should be done in such a way that they may become exceedingly kind and merciful to the animals. So universal understanding, global understanding is also about taking care of the environment, nature, taking care of the animals, and everything animate and inanimate, becoming conscious of the globe that God has given us. And that global understanding means love for humanity and love for all living beings and reverence for all forms of life. This is the second building block of education. The third building block is excellence in all things, which is a term directly from the Baha'i writings, excellence in all things, which is actually perhaps the mind to discover and to recognize that we are innately capable, that every child, every human being has a bundle of capacities which can be developed, nurtured, and trained, and that every child must be constantly encouraged and made eager to gain all the summits of human accomplishment, so that from their earliest years they will be taught to have high aims and will learn to be of powerful resolve and firm of purpose in all things. If a child is told that his intelligence is less than his fellow pupils, it is a very great drawback and handicap to progress. Every child must be encouraged to advance. So it is not about relative distinction. It's not saying I'm better than you or I'm more capable than you. It is a recognizing that God has created every leaf different, every plant different, every flower different, every perfume different. And diversity is our strength, that everyone is different. And yet everyone is creation of God and that great beautiful person that they are meant to be. And so we need to measure progress in school, in education, not against the other, which is unfortunately the case, that progress is measured against the other because marks are given out of 10 or 100, and we invariably compare. But instead, that according to Baha'i writings, that every child must be encouraged to advance against their own self. That means they must compete with themselves or compare with their own previous best, and then progress forward and advance every single day. So the measures of progress in education have to be seen very dramatically different to what they are today, and they need to be based on the idea of progress against self rather than progress against others. And this will also create a more humane world, because one must not think of themselves as bigger or better than another human being, but rather a humble servant of the other. And that humility will come when we are not trying to outdo the other, when we are not trying to make better marks than the other, but rather we are trying to better ourselves and becoming better every single day. This will advance humanity greater and faster than competition with others. So this is the third building block, excellence in all things, which is about bringing beauty and perfection in the world, seeing beauty in everyone, becoming the best relative to self, and becoming the Mahatma, the great Mahatma, the great Abraham Lincoln, the great human beings that have held on to high resolve, who have become, who are of high aspirations, high goals, and who have been able to create a better world for all. And I think those are the people of inspiration we can learn from. And education must bring out the corals and the pearls and the excellence in every single human being, because every single human being is endowed with great capacity. So that's the third building block. The fourth and final building block is service to humanity. And that is the body and the skills to be of service. And this is where it connects to the idea that education in the service of community. So Baha'i writings say that work done, any work that we do in a spirit of service to others, is the highest form of worship. So education is linked to work and work to service. So education must prepare human beings to serve humanity. Without action, nothing in the material world can be accomplished. It is not through lip service only that the elect of God have attained to holiness, but by patient lives of active service that they brought light into the world. So we learn from people who are great, who have attained to holiness, that their patient lives of active service has brought them into the light of the world. We must return good for evil. So this is another very high standard of service, that even if somebody does evil against us, we must return it with good, and not only forgive, but also, if possible, be of service to our oppressor. This conduct is worthy of man. This is really very high standard to teach our children and to ourselves, that we must do good even for those who do evil against us. And there are many examples, stories of Abdul Baha doing that in Israel, former Israel, and so many things we learn from the lives of so many people across the world who put service as the highest principle. Amongst the greatest of all services, Baha'i writings say, is the education of children, though. So anyone who engages himself or herself in the education of children, directly or indirectly, and in the promotion of the various sciences, crafts, and arts, this is considered to be the greatest of all great services that a man can render to Almighty God. And the education itself is something that we must all seek out to do, as, for example, get involved with literacy projects, make sure that children in our neighborhood and our communities are educated, and that no child is bereft of that education. And if it is recommended that if the parents are unable to provide the expenses of this education, that the community must provide the means for teaching this child. And so we as a community are endowed to make that greater service to humanity, which is education of children. I'd like to conclude by saying that education is not limited to the classroom. A greater education is that in real life and in service to humanity. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, wonderful. You have explained in a very precise manner the building blocks of education and the importance of value education and moral education to the children and, of course, to the members of the society. Thank you very much. Of course, the floors will remain open and there will be comments and questions and answers. So you'll be sharing your insights when the questions are posed to you a little later. Friends, we know that we understand about value education, we know about moral capacity building in the human beings. How do we get the inspiration to do all this? How do we cultivate the moral habits and the noble way of thinking, and how can we carry forward this virtues at home, which we will carry to the social space later on? The source of inspiration, which is agreeable to all of us, are the holy writings that Dr. Sunita was just mentioning from the Baha'i writings. So in every program, we make it a point to draw the attention of the participants to the holy scriptures, which have been mentioned by the messengers of God that appear from time to time. The source, that is a source of inspiration for us. So we make that an integral part of our programs. So I would like to request Dr. Merchant to read the holy quotes, the relevant holy quotes that we have prepared for today. Adib, could you please unmute Dr. Merchant?
Yes, would you be doing the screen sharing?
Yes.
Because our
Yes.
electricity has gone. Otherwise, my laptop, I would have read it.
No issue.
Yeah, but yes, I have read it. So little bit enlarge.
Is it readable, Dr. Merchant?
Little bit the focus need to sharpen.
Adib, can you make it a
Yeah,
little
first
larger?
is extracts from the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Yeah, extracts from the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, friends, these are the passages from the holy books. First, extracts from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. always perform your duty efficiently and without attachment. Without attachment. What was it? Attachment to the results.
Dr. Merchant, you are not
Because
audible. Do you have internet issues?
No, I'm reading.
Or maybe you can speak to the mic
now?
directly.
What I'll do is, yes, I'll stop the video.
Yeah.
Because by doing work without attachment, one attains the supreme. Your right is only to perform your duty. You do not have the right to attach any consequences thereof.
Expect
You
any
should neither
consequence.
be, you should, do not have right to expect any consequences thereof. You should realize, now it's clear. You should neither be motivated by the fruits of your action, nor should they encourage you to be inactive. You should perform your duty with a view to guide people. Again, the focus, earlier the
And
focus
for
was
the-
clear.
and
Yeah,
for
now
the
it's better.
universal welfare.
Yes. Somehow this guide the people for universal welfare. Strive constantly to
Adi, is there a problem? So strive. Okay, I think he got disconnected. You should Dr. Adib, please unmute him.
am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. The screen, there is a black curtain
Adib,
there.
what is the problem?
Please make it sharp and share the screen again.
Adib, can you disconnect and put it back again? There is some problem.
Sorry, if I did not have the electricity failure, I don't know why today was constant.
Please put it back again. Okay,
And make the text sharper.
you can make a little bit larger.
No, just the sharpness is missing.
Okay,
I continue. You should perform your duty with a view to guide people and for the universal welfare. Strive constantly to serve the welfare of the world by devotion to selfless work and attain the supreme goal of life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. On this path,
effort never goes to waste.
on this effort never goes to waste, and there is no failure. Even little effort
Towards spiritual awareness.
With spiritual awareness will proceed.
Will protect you.
Will protect you from the greatest fear.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Go to the next page.
Next page. This is from the Holy Quran. Do not follow that which you have no knowledge. Refrain from groundless assertions and conjectures. Produce your proof if you are useful. Whoever follows a path of perfect
pursuit of knowledge. Whoever follows a path in the pursuit of knowledge.
Allah will make easy for him a path to paradise. Allah elevates to high position those from amongst you who are faithful and those who have acquired knowledge. And do not mix the truth with falsehood. or conceal the truth while you know it. Help one another to act in acts of piety and righteousness, and do not assist each other in acts of sinfulness and transgression, and speak to people good words. Allah
Does not wrong the people,
Allah does not wrong the people,
but it is the people who are
but
wronging
it is
themselves,
but it is the people who
are wronging
are wrong,
themselves.
who are wrongdoing themselves.
Imam Ali says,
Imam Ali says, a little knowledge removes lot of ignorance. Everything diminishes when it is
used
except knowledge. Knowledge enlivens the soul. Okay, next page. Extracts from the Holy Bible. God is not unjust. He will not forge your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. And do not forget to do good and to
share with others,
for with such sacrifices God is pleased. The discerning heart serves knowledge,
seeks knowledge,
but
the mouth
of
a fool,
of the fools on
feeds
folly.
on-
The
feeds
mouth
on
of the
folly.
fool falls feeds on folly.
Yeah. For lack of guidance,
For lack of guidance,
a nation falls.
for lack of guidance, a nation falls.
But victory is won through many
Yeah,
advisors.
but victory is won
through many
through
advisors.
many
advisors.
advices.
But the
For the
wisdom of
wise,
this,
then
can you see? But the
the
wisdom of
victory
this
is
world is foolish
won
before God.
through many.
And then go to the next page.
Victory is won through many advices.
For the okay.
Yes. For the wise, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and the instruction of the Lord. Train up a child in the way he should go,
He should go even
he should
when
go.
he is old.
Even when he is
old.
he will not depart from it. Then from the writings attributed to the Buddha, the greatest gift is to give the people your enlightenment, to share it. It has to be the greatest. It has to be the greatest.
A
A
generous
gracious
heart,
heart,
Yes.
gracious heart, kind speech, and the life of service and
compassion
compassion
are the
are the
things
things which renew humanity. Set your heart on things good.
do it over and over again.
Do it over and over again, and you will be
Filled with joy.
filled with joy. Okay, the next page. Filled with joy. Then
Thousands of candles. can be
thousands
lighted.
of candles can be lighted. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Speak only endearing speech. Speech is welcomed. Speech when it brings no evil to others, is a pleasant thing. Every human being is the author of his own health or disease. No one saves us but ourselves. We ourselves must walk the path. Please raise the screen for the Baha'i writings. Man is the supreme talisman. Lack of a proper education had, however, deprived him of that which he doth inherently possess. Regard man as a mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. The root cause of wrongdoing is ignorance, and we must therefore hold fast to the tools of perception and knowledge. Good character must be taught. The individual must be educated to such a high degree that he would rather have his throat cut than tell a lie, and would think it easier to be slashed with a sword or pierced with a spear than to utter calumny or to be carried away by wrath. Thus will be kindled the sense of human dignity and pride, to burn away the reapings of lustful appetites. Then will each one of God's beloved shine out as a bright moon with qualities of the Spirit. The purport is this, that, again the screen. What happened? The purport is this, that from the
it's not clear.
that from the character of humankind, that from the character of humankind is the cause of wrongful. The screen is not clear.
Where is it? The purport is this.
The
that
last,
to
yeah, the
train
purport is this.
that to
yeah.
train the character of
To
humankind
train the character of humankind
is one of the weightiest
is one of the
commandments of God.
weightiest commandments of God,
And the
the
influence of
attributes
such training,
and the
influence,
influence of
such training
such training
is
is the same as that which
sun
the sun exerted
over tree and fruit.
over tree and fruit. I'm sorry, the screen. Yeah, next we continue. Bend your address yourself to the promotion of the well-being and tranquility of the children of men. Bend your minds and wills to the education of the peoples and kindreds of the earth, that haply the dissensions that divide it may, through the power of the most great name, be blotted out from its face, and all mankind become the upholders of one order and the inhabitants of one city. The primary, the most urgent requirement in the promotion of education is the promotion of education. It is inconceivable that any nation should achieve prosperity and success unless this paramount, this fundamental concern is carried forward. Thank you very much. Sorry for some technical glitches.
Thank you very much, Dr. Merchant. We will have to see why the screen was not clear for you, because it was clear from our side. It's difficult to understand. So, friends, the next is that we are going to take group photographs. So, please switch on your videos so that we are able to take group photographs of the friends. Adib, when you finish, you tell me, okay? The second page, have you done the second page? You done? Okay, the next program we are going to, before we open the floor open for the suggestions, observations, and questions, we are going to have a song, and I will request Madam Pina, who had joined us from Malaysia. She's going to sing a song for us on the theme of love and unity for humankind. Can you, Adip, can you please unmute Madam Pina?
Yes. I am unmuted.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes. The song is related to education, which is to teach is to learn, and to love is to sacrifice, to serve is, it says, to learn is to work is to serve is to love is to sacrifice is to die is to live is to rise, is to strive is to rise above all earthly limitations and enter the eternal realm. To teach is to learn is to work is to serve is to love is to sacrifice is to die is to live is to strive is to rise above all earthly limitations and enter the eternal realm. To teach is to learn is to work is to serve is to love is to sacrifice is to die is to live is to strive is to rise above all earthly limitations and enter the eternal realm.
Thank you very much, Madam Pina. It was so wonderful and so relevant for the occasion. Thank you so much. Friends, I would like to request you all now to participate in the deliberations. Please show your hands if you want to comment and contribute to the discourse that we have, or you want to pose a question to Dr. Sunita Gandhi, or you have any observations to make, please do share. So okay, Dr. Merchant has shown his hand. Please go ahead, Dr. Merchant. Please unmute yourself. Yes, yes.
Friends, thank you very much, Dr. Jiten Mishra, for this wonderful virtual discourse. Of course, I have known Dr. Sunita for many years and her tremendous contribution. I found her speech was short. I felt that she could have shared much more. And the four, building blocks that she spoke about, they are truly the foundational blocks. There was one dimension I wanted her to comment. We know that teaching is the noblest of all professions. So as her experience in the field of education and today's teachers in different schools, how motivated are they? Because in India, I've also been in the teaching field and I've been also in the service projects. I've seen that there are many places teachers are just produced as if you are producing some piece of machinery in a factory. Not all of them are motivated, or the way Dr. Sunita Gandhi was explaining to us. So perhaps if she could also comment a little bit about how we can have truly motivated teachers who will sincerely believe that their profession is among the most noblest, and the way they are educating or interacting with the children in the classroom or outside the classroom, they should become exemplars. So that dimension, perhaps I might invite Dr. Sunita Gandhi to kindly share her reflections. Thank you very much once again.
Please go ahead.
Okay, right. Thank you, Dr. Merchant. So awesome to see you here after what must be a century. Very long time.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to say to this eminent gathering here that yes, if we want to give an education of the 4 building blocks, that is, if we want children to have universal values, global understanding that we are part of one human family, excellence in all things, and they need to be learning about service to humanity, that teachers need to have all the 4 in them. There's no way you can teach something you're not, because we teach through our action loudest. And so this guy, a teacher must be an exemplar, must be a spiritual being, must be endowed with all human virtues and qualities, as in the universal values building block. They must be lovers of humanity. They must see all children as equal and love each one equally. They must also be safeguarders of the environment, of the animals, of every living being. They should embrace diversity in all its forms, like in the universal values building block. They should also be embracing excellence in all things. That means they should be focusing on perfection and beauty, on recognizing the potential of every single child to become a great Mahatma or a great human being. And if they cannot visualize that, they will not create it. And that means in their hearts and minds, they must themselves be that great human being. Teaching is the highest of all professions, as education of children is the greatest service we can render to Almighty God. Teachers also should see their work as servants of humanity. It is the highest form of service. And if they, through their actions, create that environment of service through their work, then children become servants of humanity. So I think that teachers have the most paramount role. If we are to create a better education, it rests squarely upon the teacher. So their training must be of utmost importance. It's not enough that they know what Jean Piaget said or Lawrence Kohlberg, but it's more important for them to become a good human being and to recognize their great station as teachers of humanity and teachers of the future of humanity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I can see one more hand. Mr. Yash Dhamija. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jitain. Good evening, Dr. Sunita. My question to you would be like, so recently I have started my fellowship at Teach for India, and we were like being trained how to teach children, and we were just like understanding the limitations of the crumbling education system. But somewhere down to the line, I always think that why do you think is the education system is in such a mess? I mean, particularly in India, like, I mean, do you think that the high remuneration for the teachers will be like as an guiding force that they have to teach, so there we are studying, okay, teachers should be paid higher amount than what they are being paid right now. So do you think that that will help teachers to, because I personally think all the teachers try their best, so just saying that some teachers are good, some teachers are bad, because I want to see their limitations also. They have a lot of pressures from the academics and all. So what do you suggest the school system should do, or the policymakers should do that will help teachers to do better?
Fantastic question, Yash. What I would like to say is that obviously teachers need to be honored and recognized. They are the trainers of humanity. They should be well paid, or the best paid in a country. Whether that will guarantee a better education is not clear, because what we found typically is that the intrinsic motivation within the teacher is lacking. Then no amount of remuneration is going to help the teacher become an exemplary teacher or take care of the children. We find there to be huge problem of accountability and transparency in the education systems in India, where teachers see it more as a profession or as a job rather than as an avocation, something they enjoy and like to do. In education, there's no room for neutrality, there's no room for mediocrity, there's only room for excellence and room for passion and commitment. And the question then becomes, how do you create that passion and commitment amongst the children, amongst the teachers? And I think it is when we depoliticize it, I think education has become highly politicized. The wages are increased not on the basis of that teachers deserve it, but because of political economy of a country. And the true honor and recognition of teachers' role is hardly ever emphasized. I think maybe that's what we need to do a lot more of, is give teachers that standing in society. So when they walk through the streets, the children recognize them and say, this is my teacher. This is the one I respect. And teachers should rise to that Gurukul status that the old Gurukuls had of teachers, where they're exemplary, where they are human beings that students can worship and can learn from, and who can they can look up to for their sustenance and guidance. I think that kind of a teacher is still very elusive, but it can be done. It must be done, but it must be probably be a matter of faith. When it becomes a matter of faith, when teachers recognize as a matter of faith that this is their high station, and they start to see their work as worship, we will start to see that transition, because it has to come from within and not from the without.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next person is Dr. Radha Rost. Madam, kindly unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the speaker also. Now, I had experience when I was in Africa. There was a lady who had children, and she was a teacher also. She shared something with me which I really thought was very, very important. And today, when you're talking about training at home, with the parents, it reminds me. What she used to do is, if the children did something good, which they thought was the right thing to do, she would reward them. A reward would be something to help to work. You would today help your mother to make the bed or water the plants or feed the fish or whatever work would be there, or help your dad to clean up the car or mow the garden, this thing. And whenever they did something which she did not like it was punishment. And punishment was to sit in the chair today and watch your mother or father do the work. And you cannot help today. No work you can do to help us. And I found that it was very good for the children. When I came to India and I went to some of the villages and saw the school teachers teaching, and I was really very, very disturbed to see this, that if a child does something wrong, you stay behind and clean the room, clean the classroom before you go home tonight. Why would a child love working? Do you imagine that? Work is worship, not if you made some mistake, you have to write 10 times or 100 times the word. Now, what is going to happen to that? Will he learn or love to write or read? You have to read this, or memorize this. As a punishment, as a reward is very good. But as punishment, if you give that, the child will not learn that. And so, really it bothered me. And when I started to teach in a school and I do counseling also, so I use this technique and I found that children's character are improving, even the junior youth. When we do that with them also, you can see that they start to cry when they are not allowed to help you, when they're not allowed to help the dorm parent or help the teachers. So I think in a school classroom also the teachers can learn the same thing, and that will help the children to learn some of the very important thing of service. Because service, work in a spirit of service is worship. the spirit of service is generated and created in them because of this kind of. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Dr. Radharas. Thank you so much for your comments. The next is Mr. Chanchal, Mr. Chanchal Dabla. Mr. Chanchal Dabla.
May I just request that my mother is here, Dr. Mrs. Bharti Gandhi. She is the greatest educator I know, and I've learned everything I know from the Baha'i writings and from her. So I would very much like if she would like to make a comment. That would be awesome.
I will go to her. I will definitely go to her.
Sure.
It's in my mind. I will go to her. Okay, the next person is Mr. Abbas Moti Amireliwala.
Salhava to everyone, and Dr. Sunita, I would like to show that at present, I think we all agree that the academic teaching and the quality of the teaching is definitely not as per the Baha'i standard, and the students and the children are not taught more of the spiritual values and how to handle the life. They learn only the academic thing and how to progress in this material world, which of course is not the best of the things. So, I mean, I feel then since the academic system cannot be improved immediately, I feel that this burden should at present go to the parents, who should be able to teach the children at home, besides having the academic qualification. You know, especially in USA, where my my family is, where my daughter is, I mean, they have the option to teach children at home if they don't want to send them to school. So, I mean, it is possible that the parents can really take efforts and teach the children at home, which it is required to learn to become a good citizen and to be a lover of mankind and to do work on welfare. So what would you say on that, and how would you like to guide the parents that how they should proceed in this matter? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so here I'd like to say that homeschooling is definitely preferable in many, many circumstances, especially for parents who want to bring up their children in spiritual manner. And I know a family of a couple that works with me for the last 8 years. They're Americans, and they're living here in Lucknow, and they homeschooled 9 of their children. So they had to be experts in every subject and every grade level. And they didn't need to do all that much either, because there's a lot of homeschooling curriculum that is very helpful. So I think Baha'i writings are of course very clear that till age 5, the children need to study at home. They need to be homeschooled. And it's only at age 5 that they should enter a school. And that's not they should enter a school, but if they go to school, then the kind of education they should get is very clear. If that education is not available in a school, I think it's preferable that the children be homeschooled.
Thank you so much. We are actually immensely privileged to have Dr. Bharti Gandhi with us. It's so nice.
What is the topic, sir? May I know, please?
We are talking about education, how education can serve the community.
Definitely, because without education, there is nothing. No difference between a man and animal. So that is the first thing. Second thing is, एक तो होता है साक्षर होना, ठीक है, एक होता है एजुकेटेड होना. तो मैंने पढ़ा है कि a child who is even clean but not having very costly clothes but well mannered is preferable to a child who is, having all these material things but ill mannered. But if it is both and spiritual also, then it is right upon that. Secondly, what is we believe what is the aim of the education? The aim of education is that what should humanity strive for? What is the goal of the humanity is the goal of education. And that is the goal of a new world order. So in the new education policy also, they have brought world peace. So we can teach the goal of a new world order, and only then the harassed humanity will be relaxed. It is so much harassed. So we cannot, do anything except, what is the station given to the educationists by Baha'u'llah? He says, highest of the highest services, education, teacher. Amongst the greatest of all the great services which a man can possibly render to Almighty God is not DM Banna, not Prime Minister Banna, is education of children, building their character and inculcating in their tender hearts the love of God. So I like this definition, and I try to remind this thing to all the teachers of the time, and they are also, trying to adopt, and they have been doing it through Junior Youth Empowerment Program also. There are more than 9,000 students who are involved in this Junior Youth Empowerment Program, and where they learn service also. Service is the main thing. And children teach students. Child of a 9th class will teach a class of 3-4 of them will go, and they will, teach class 6. They are moral education. Okay. So main thing is the character of children. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your insights, Madam Gandhi. Thank you so much. So we will conclude with, we have one more person on the line, is Mr. Mishra from Cuttack. He is a thinker, he is a writer. So I would like to request him to share his thoughts before we close the, can you please unmute yourself, Mr. Mishra? Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, and very distinguished participants, and Sunita for her wonderful comments and commentary on education. And first of all, I must convey my hearty wish on the eve of Independence Day of our country to each and everyone. Because we are going to conclude, before that I will take very short time. There are 4 structures of education. One is literacy, another is learning, another is education, that is academics, that is teaching, and ultimately it is knowledge. Of course, beyond that, wisdom is there. So far as education is concerned, education is not knowledge by itself. Education is an implement which leads us to the knowledge. Just tell me one thing, our caption of the topic is what Bharati Madam was asking. May I know the topic, please? The title of the topic was Beyond the Confines of Classroom Education in the Service of Community. That means we admit the 4 walls of the classrooms are confines. And of course it is. Once it is academic or academy, that means a sense of structuralization is there. And once a concept of structure is there, it will definitely confine the mind, the body, the cognition, and everything. Dr. Mishra and some of the distinguished participants, just tell me one thing. that if we are talking of education or academics or knowledge or education that is in the service of community, just tell me how many public services, either in India or any other countries, are really taking the service quotient as one of the parts in their public service examination recruitment policy. Even so far as the so-called highest job, Indian Administrative Service, please remember that some of the services are not jobs. They are called services. Even we tried our level best to make it service-oriented from the intelligence quotient phenomena. Still, we have not been considerably successful enough to achieve our goal. So true education, like Ramanujan, who could not pass his intermediate, but brilliant in mathematics, like Shakespeare, who could not pass his class 7, what we call the dropouts. But now, so far as the new education policy is concerned, the proposed new education policy of Government of India, the dropout word is gone. Now it is empirically educated. Class 7 could not pass the class 7, but writes the dramatics. And now it is being taught in Master of Arts and MPhil and PhD courses. So far, Mr. Ramanujan, the Indian system of education could not award him the degree. So therefore, the England people, United Kingdom people took him and give Mr. Ramanujan the honorary degree. So ultimately, either so far as the Public Services Commission, the Public Service Commission, where we are keeping service as a goal, still we are not taking the service attitude or orientation or what I call the service quotient as one of the aspects while recruiting the people to render our services. Still we thrust on intelligence quotient, at best emotional quotient, at best social quotient, so-called cognitive quotient. But the social quotient, that is service quotient, must be given thrust so far as education is concerned. And ultimately, I would like to say that the academic, which is very structured, that may be there to recruit some student, some substance or some resource person or system. But the truly educated people, that is knowledge people, that is wise people, what we are talking of the knowledge society so far as the 21st century is concerned, there are three aspects. One is empirical education, two is self-motivated education, and number three is perceptive education. These three components education will make us substantially suitable to render our service to community, to cluster, to society large, and nation and so far as universe is concerned. And ultimately, so far as the value education is concerned, when we purchase a book from shop, when we say that what is the price of it, we may say 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500 rupees. But when we say what is the value of it, the knowledge and realization within the book, exactly when we say the value of the person, when we hear the name or when we bring the image of the person, whatever impression we carry on that person is the value of the same. Therefore, United Nations Organization has enlisted more than 80 values as the international values, human values, family values, social values, etc. And finally, I would like to say, we are to take a very transformational perspective, a very leapfrog development, leapfrog attitude towards the education to make it truly humanized and service-oriented. Thank you. Thank you for patient hearing.
As usual, Mr. Mishra is always thoughtful and very, very introspective, very articulate. Thank you so much for your views. Dr. Sunita, you have any comments to make?
I'd just like to say it's been absolutely brilliant being on this group. I love the quotations that were selected that followed my presentation. I love the format. I like the sincerity with which it's being done. I like the fact that we are all, sacrificing our Sunday and Independence Day afternoon to study about education. So it's all, just absolutely wonderful and delightful. That's all I'd like to conclude with.
Thank you very much. I always say I'm just a part-time academician. I always say that education does not lie only within the purview of the teachers. education lies with the responsibility of everyone. Every citizen of this world is an educator.
Yes.
And it begins from the family. It's an individual responsibility to educate your family members, to your neighbors, to your friends, your acquaintances, anyone who crosses your path. And, you know, as the quotes shared by Dr. Gandhi and all other friends, you know, it shows that academic education is not enough. Value education has to supplement the deficiency of academic education. So thank you so much. We go to the next program. The next program, what we do at the next part of the program, we call it repeating the statement of pledges. What we do, we don't try to make this discourses as intellectual stimulation or academic excellence. We don't try to do that. We try to carry home a message, a learning from these programs so that it brings some kind of change in our individual life, and we do something that we didn't do before, or we didn't learn before, or we were not conscious before, and we try to do that in our individual lives. So we always prepare the statements of pledges, and like small children, we try to repeat it after someone reads it. So I will now request, it's on the screen, is Mrs. Binara Ganberi there? I cannot see her. Madam Ganberi, are you there? Can you please, yes, Madam is there, yes. So I would like to request Madam Ganberi to read the statement of pledges slowly so that friends can repeat after you. And Adib, the screen is not proper. There is a black spot coming on the screen. You will have to remove the black spots. And then, Mrs. Ganberi, do you have the sheet with you, or you don't have, or you want to see the screen?
I have the sheet with me.
Okay. So kindly read it slowly, and Adi, please unmute the participants so that they can repeat after Mrs. Ganberi reads the parts of the sentence.
Yes, good evening, friends. So these are positive intentions. So I will read it very slowly, and you can please repeat after me. Are you, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, please go ahead. Adi, please unmute the mics.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear.
So I'll begin.
Please go ahead.
We recognize that
We recognize that
is to serve, empower people.
the purpose of education
is to serve, empower people,
enrich understanding,
that leads to collective growth.
that leads to
collective growth. We promised
To apply and diffuse knowledge and understanding.
understanding.
To dispel ignorance and prejudice.
To dispel ignorance
And build
and
a better
prejudice.
build a better
society.
We agree
That we agree that
is potentially rich.
every
every
human being
human being
potentially rich,
It is education that can
and
enable
it is education that can enable them
recognize and release
to
their
recognize
capacity.
and release their capacity.
We promise
We
we
promise
promise to educate
our
that we
fellow
can
humans
towards an enduring civilization for our children.
Towards an enduring civilization
Towards an
towards our
enduring
children.
civilization for our children.
We understand that
We understand that
We understand that
We understand that
spiritual education
Promotion of the
spiritual
spiritual education.
in addition to education for physical science and society,
physical science and society
is absolutely essential for human maturity.
is actively essential for human maturity
and for any society to prosper.
and for any society to prosper.
any society to prosper.
And nourish.
Promise to educate and
We promise to educate and nourish everyone
to bring about change in our surroundings.
who causes our path to bring about lasting change in our surroundings. We recognize that
we recognize that
every human being
Recognize that
every human being
every human
has
being
both angelic and animal side.
angelic
Animals not only value education,
The human soul
And it is only value education
that can train the human souls
that can train the human
train
soul
the human
to
soul
overcome their negative
to overcome the
to
negative
overcome the
bias
negative
and self-servicing ideas.
bias and self-serving ideas.
We promise to raise
ideas.
promise to raise
Promise to raise
positive
to raise
consciousness
positive
positive
consciousness
consciousness
and help
positive
one another
consciousness
and help one
help one
another
another
to create vibrant neighborhoods
create vibrant
create
neighborhoods
vibrant neighborhood
create
around us.
vibrant
around us.
around us.
neighborhoods.
We recognize that
We recognize
We recognize that
We recognize
solution
that
to all issues
solution to all issues
solution to all issues
in our society
in our
in our
society
society
lies in
our society
education
and transformation of
lies in
and
education
transformation of souls.
lies in
lies in
transformation
education and
of souls.
transformation
And
transformation of
believe
souls.
that our human beings
and believe that
and
all
believe that
human
all
beings
Believe
human
that
beings
are
a
equally
human being
accountable
to
are equally accountable
accountable
are
build our common future.
accountable
in
build our
common
common
future.
future.
We promise to initiate
the common future.
We promise
We
to
promise to
initiate
Promise
initiate
to initiate
public affairs
to involve everyone
to everyone
to involve
in
everyone
public affairs
everyone
public
in
affairs
public affairs
in order to build
in order to
in
build
order to build
a unifying vision,
unifying
a
vision,
unifying vision,
a shared ethic
unifying vision,
shared
shared ethic
for ensuring humanity's
for
for
ensuring
ensuring humanity
humanity's
brighter future.
brighter future.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ganberry and all others. Usually this part of the program becomes a little bit chaotic because all the mics are unmuted and friends don't synchronize while repeating. But then we do that every time in order to bring that consciousness within us that we have to do something different hereafter. Okay, friends, we have come to the end of the program, and if you want, you can leave your email addresses in the chat box. We can share the statement of pledges with you, so that you can repeat yourself at home, and that will be a kind of take home or homework for all of us that we learn from the discourse that we attended. Thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to conclude this conclusion. Friends, what is the conclusion from this program, from this discourse, from the address of the keynote speaker, what did we learn? And from the holy writings that we read, what did we learn? We must understand that each and every human being is an educator. Each and every human being has a responsibility to contribute to the society. And it's not only academic education. In addition to the academic education, we also require the spiritual education in our life. We must understand that we are human beings. We are distinguished from all other forms of life for the endowments that God has gifted on us, for the power of intellect that we have with us. And we have to justify that we are human beings and we are not animals. We are not social animals only. And we should not stay indifferent to the human misery, to the difficulties that society faces and the conflicts around us and the controversies around us. We must always try to be positive, pragmatic, and contribute to the affairs, human affairs, and involve ourselves in the affairs of society. We must not stay aloof, considering that it's too much controversial, too much dirty, and we cannot enter there and it will spoil our life. We should be able to contribute to it, and we should be rock steady in our belief in our value system, and we should be able to build bridges, initiate conversations with our extended family members, with our neighbors, and we must understand that it's not possible to live in happiness alone if my neighbor is hungry and has an issue. So we can always be happy if everyone is happy. And the recent pandemic has taught us this lesson, that we are not different from each other, we are all one, and our happiness and sufferings is very much common to each other, and we must learn the lessons we have seen in everyday life from this pandemic. With this note, I thank you all for joining, and we will come back after a couple of weeks' time and on another educative theme, and we request you to please publicize this modest initiative and help us grow and more like-minded people to join us, to strengthen our hands. And this is the only way, dear friends, that we will be able to build a better society, build a better neighborhood, build a better colony and around us, and we will all live happily with unity and peace. I thank from the core of my heart Dr. Sunita Gandhi for joining us today and for kindly consenting to address us. And we became delighted to see Dr. Bharati Gandhi, which was very much unexpected that she will join us. But it was very nice. I thank Dr. Merchant, I thank Mr. Ganesh Shinoy, and all other friends who have helped us to make this program successful. And I hope to see you all in a few weeks' time on another educative theme, and requesting all your support to make this endeavor a stronger one, a better one, and to contribute to the society. Thank you very much, dear friends.